Hey, I want to take a little time today here to make another video. I want to talk about the church shooting in Texas. Now, I'm not going to show you the video. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't want to try to increase my numbers or profit off of such a tragedy. But I do want to discuss certain aspects of what happened. Now, I don't want to sit here and Monday morning quarterback what they did, the people that were involved in the actual incident, because that's too easy to do. And plus, I'm not the world's greatest expert on these types of things, so why should you care what I think about it? But what I do want to talk about is how when people say good guys with guns never stop mass shootings, they're so full of shit. This is just another example. The reason why you don't see mass shootings that were stopped by good guys with guns is because when there's good guys with guns there, they don't become mass shootings. There's several examples of that throughout history. Recent examples, like that cartoon contest where the guy got shot in the head as he was walking in with an AK, the Muslim guy. Also, there's this one just now. He managed to kill one person, wound one person, doesn't qualify as a mass killing because he was stopped by a good guy with a gun. So, of course, people on the left are going to be like, oh, see, it wasn't a mass shooting because the good guys with guns don't stop mass shootings. But it wasn't one because there was a good guy with a gun there. So keep that in mind next time someone says, well, good guys with guns never stop mass shootings. That's one thing I want to talk about. But the main thing I want to talk about, the second thing I want to talk about is how some politicians, their heads seem to be about to explode trying to talk about it because they just can't accept the fact that a good guy with a gun stopped a possibly insane person from killing multiple innocent people. And you can see it so easily. Beto O'Rourke did a little tweet or twat or whatever it is, a little twatter, about where he's like, oh, this just shows what we're doing wrong in this country about gun laws. I'm like, really? That's what you take from this? To me, it looks like this is why we should have armed citizens, because they can stop people like this without it going further. So instead of there being a room full of victims there and one guy with power, there were people there with the ability to stop him. Not cower in fear or hide in a closet, etc., which the left loves to teach us how to do. So it's funny watching them try to work around, and Beto O'Rourke is just blatantly dishonest because he just refuses to acknowledge the fact that it was stopped by armed parishioners, period. Now, other people, Joe Biden, the media, and let's remember, Joe Biden kind of got mad at Texas when they said, oh, well, you can carry in churches now. When they passed that law, Joe Biden was like, this is so irrational. Really? Looks like it panned out to be rational. So why don't you get on your high horse this time and admit you were wrong? But we won't see you doing that because you don't have an honest bone in your body. But the main thing I want to point out is how, don't let them fool you with this. The media and a lot of politicians on the left, etc., are trying to portray this as something it isn't. They're trying to say this church, luckily, had highly trained armed security. I've heard that said a dozen times now. Oh, they had armed security. They're trying to make it sound like to you that only a certain level echelon of people can be trusted to have firearms, and thank God they were there and that they were hired because they're basically police officers. No, it wasn't a highly trained armed security. It was parishioners of the church, ushers, deacons, etc., that had agreed to carry during service, and most of them went to a local gun shop, which one of the parishioners owned, took some basic lessons in how to defend themselves, which most of us that own a gun have had or more, had training equal to that or greater, and then they carried during their services. They were not a highly trained armed security. They weren't even armed security. They were parishioners who had volunteered to carry guns during church. So this whole notion that, oh, it was, thank God they had armed security. They didn't have armed security. They had armed citizens. They had armed parishioners. That's what they had. They had volunteers that were willing to be armed. And maybe people should take a lesson from that. That when you have responsible, competent citizens that legally own firearms who are willing to be the line of defense between the innocent and the insane, then maybe you should take advantage of that. because I think that could be implemented in a lot of places. I would love to see like more school teachers carrying. I would like to see more churches have ushers that agree to carry a firearm. I would love to see all kinds of public places. I would love to walk in and look around and go, at least 1 out of every 10 of these people is carrying a handgun. If I was a bad guy, or if any bad guy had to walk into large groups of people where they love to go and attack because they can rack up high numbers very quickly before they have to kill themselves or get taken out by the police, if they had to walk into a room and know, oh, there's probably a good percentage of these people that are carrying guns and I don't know which ones they are, which is one of the reasons I think just having armed parishioners is better than having security. Because if you have armed security outside, they know who security is. This is much better. So if bad guys have to walk into a room and go, there's armed people in here and I don't know which ones are armed, they're probably going to have to go somewhere else because they're not going to get what they want. They're not going to get mass casualties, a lot of press coverage, etc. So armed civilians, armed good guys with guns, in my opinion, are the answer to a lot of the problems we have with mass killings today. Because if these killers didn't feel like they were going to be completely safe, and that's why they usually target gun-free zones, if they didn't feel like they were safe and they didn't feel like they were going to be able to get their message across, I think you'd see a lot less people doing these heinous acts. So fuck the politicians who don't want to actually take the lesson from this, who want to somehow twist it or just ignore it. Fuck them. They're doing a disservice to you, to me, to everybody in society who has a right to be safe. You'll never be 100% safe because you can't be free and fully safe, but you have a right to be as safe as possible, and armed citizens are one of the best way to do this. So fuck those politicians that I said want to ignore the lesson or want to twist the lesson just to make sure you don't learn it.
Oops.
Go ahead. It's a lady at 46 South Road. 46 South Road.
Station 1 call, retone that please. 10-4. Captain 4 to go to that location also. This is 1-9, is that correct?
Sorry, what?